You ever stand there, one foot on the front porch, coffee still warm in your hand, and think there's no way it gets any crazier than this? Well, buckle up, because that's exactly what I thought right before Karen went full Shakespearean villain on my family. I mean, sure, I'd seen her do the usual HOA nonsense, peeking over fences, scribbling on that clipboard like she was solving the world's greatest mystery, just with more perfume and a whole lot less charm. But there's a line, right? There has to be. At least that's what I told myself. Man, I wish I'd been right. I still remember the morning my cousin Toby came to visit. He'd flown halfway across the country for a break, just some good food, real laughs, a place where nobody reports you for laughing too loud at breakfast. Toby's got this smile like he knows something the rest of us don't. Dark skin, sharp wit, the kind of guest who asks where the dish soap is before he even sits down. Honestly, he's the only guy I know who'll help you fix the kitchen sink and still thank you for letting him stay. That first day the sun wasn't even up before Karen was already orbiting my driveway, acting like she needed to check the sprinklers. Hers are 2 houses down, mind you. It was textbook. Karen, tight smile eyes, scanning everything, already working out her next move. I tried not to think much of it. Later she showed up at my door, all sugary and polite, tapping just hard enough to remind you she's never really invited anywhere. She said she'd seen someone unfamiliar around my place, wanted to make sure everything's okay. The way she said it, you'd think Toby was casing the joint, not sitting on the porch reading about jazz music. I told her straight up, "That's my cousin. He's visiting." Her smile froze midair. For a second, I almost saw gears turning behind her eyes. Then she nodded, muttered something about community standards, and hustled back down the walk. And here's where things started getting weird. Suddenly, Karen's routine had a new target. She'd wave at me but stare holes through Toby circling the block when he was outside, driving slow enough to get a good look, but not so slow you could call it stalking. She even started timing our comings and goings, jotting stuff down. Look, I get it, some people are just built for drama. But this was something else. One afternoon while I was hauling groceries, she cornered me by the mailbox, asked where Toby worked, how long he'd be staying, whether he had proper authorization to visit. You ever get that feeling someone's not really asking, they're just collecting ammo? That's what it felt like, her pen scratching out the verdict before I'd even answered. I kept it polite, told her he'd be gone soon, tried to keep the peace. She just nodded, lips pinched so tight I thought she'd snap the pen in half. You might think that was the end of it. You'd be wrong. A couple days later she called again. Her voice was all honey and razor blades, asking why Toby was still around. I asked her what she meant, kept it cool. She said, "Oh, just making sure things are temporary." Then she laughed, one of those sharp fake ones that sound more like a cough, and added, "People like him tend to overstay." There it was. Didn't even bother to hide it. That evening as I checked the mail, Karen appeared like some haunted alarm clock. "Just so you know," she said, "some folks are feeling uneasy. Not an official problem yet." She blamed property values, safety, community standards like she was reading from the HOA Constitution. I reminded her guests are allowed. She just smiled all teeth and said rules could be reviewed if enough people wanted it. Then she spun on her heel and left me standing there feeling like the ground had shifted. At the next HOA meeting, Karen took the floor and just went off. She talked about non-residents using our facilities, draining resources, creating risks. She never said Toby's name, but every glance, every sideways reference, it all pointed at him. People nodded, papers shuffled, not a single person pushed back. She finished by proposing stricter guest policies, just temporarily, she claimed, as if anyone believed her. 2 days later, the fallout started. Toby went to use the gym. The attendant stopped him at the door, said guests weren't allowed during peak hours, which conveniently seemed to be all day long now. At the pool, they questioned his wristband twice. At the lounge, access denied. New rules popping up like weeds, and everyone seemed custom designed for him. I went straight to Karen. She smiled that fox smile, swore it wasn't personal. "We just need to be careful," she said, "so things don't escalate." That word escalate, it stuck in my head like a bad note. She wasn't keeping the peace. She was poking the bear just to see if it'd bite. And then everything came unglued. It was a quiet afternoon, the kind where you can almost pretend everything's normal. Toby was in the bathroom singing some old song off key, but with heart. I was rinsing out a mug when I heard it. The scream. Not long, not dramatic, just raw and real and loud enough to freeze every muscle in my body. I ran. The bathroom door was open, water spilling out across the tiles. Toby was on the floor, twisted wrong, one arm pinned under him. His face had gone that ghostly shade you never forget. teeth clenched, breathing rough. He'd slipped, hit the ground hard. I dropped to my knees, trying to keep him still, fighting the panic that wanted to eat me alive. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the phone, dialing 911. Paramedics showed up fast, professional calm, cutting through the panic like they'd done it 1,000 times. They got to work checking vitals, asking questions, keeping it light. Toby cracked a joke about his luck, always trying to make someone laugh, even flat on his back. And then Karen barged in. Didn't knock, didn't ask. Just stormed in like she'd bought the place. She started yelling, demanding the paramedics stop. He's not a resident. He doesn't pay HOA fees. He has no right to these services. One of the medics, bless her, tried to explain emergency care doesn't work like that. Karen got louder, waving her clipboard like a sword, insisting rules are rules. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Neighbors started crowding outside, phones out. Karen just got more energized, like she fed on the attention. She kept repeating how she'd warned everyone how there would be consequences for ignoring her. When the medics said they needed to get Toby to the hospital, she scoffed, called it unnecessary, said it had set a dangerous precedent. I was shaking, fear boiling into anger, knowing this had blown past any line. It wasn't about rules anymore, it was about control. And Karen, she was unraveling right there in front of all of us. The medics started to move Toby out. Karen disappeared for a second, just long enough for everyone to hold their breath. She came back with a metal bat, her eyes wild, like none of this was real, like the world owed her obedience. Someone screamed her name. She charged. First swing caught the medic across the head with a sound that still wakes me up at night. The second slammed down on her shoulder as she hit the ground. The medic went limp, eyes rolling back. Chaos. Screams. Phones up everywhere. I dropped down by the medic, barely breathing, calling her name, begging her to wake up. Karen was pacing, ranting, still yelling about rules, about how she'd warned us. Her voice didn't even sound human anymore. I called the police, my hands steady for the first time all day. The other paramedic was already on the radio, refusing to leave her partner, not caring about anything except saving a life. Someone kicked the bat out of Karen's reach. She tried to talk her way out of it, blaming the rules, blaming me, blaming the universe. Sirens. Blue and red lights everywhere. Cops poured in commands, sharp guns lowered but ready. Karen tried to leave, still babbling about lawsuits and power. They cuffed her, read her rights, and dragged her to a cruiser. Body cams caught it all, every scream, every swing, every neighbor finally speaking out in a single messy wave. The medic survived barely. Emergency surgery, a long recovery, but she pulled through. Karen. She was done. Not just in the neighborhood, but in every way that counts. The judge gave her 6 years aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. No remorse. She had to pay almost $500,000 in damages, medical bills, trauma, everything. HOA kicked her out for good. They even dissolved the committee she'd used as her throne. Nobody cheered when they hauled her off. We just exhaled. Like the whole street had been holding its breath for years, waiting for somebody, anybody, to finally say enough. I wish I could say it felt like a win. Honestly, it just felt like justice finally woke up and punched the clock. Sometimes karma's not loud or flashy, it's just what's right catching up to the folks who run from it the longest. But I've got to ask you, what would you have done standing there on that porch hearing that scream? Was that justice or just one more crazy day in suburbia? You tell me. And hey, if you've ever stared down a Karen or seen power twist someone into something ugly, I want to hear about it. Don't hold back. Maybe if we all share, the next Karen might think twice before picking up that bat.